On today's show, the Cavs played basketball last night. We're going to talk about what we saw in the preseason opener against the Chicago Bulls and why I am buying the DeAndre Hunter hype on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name is Danny Cunningham, and thank you for checking out another edition of Locked On Cavs. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers at some places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, and a number of other stops along the way. And I just want to say, before we get started here, thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today, and thank you to those of you that make Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Please do us a favor, give us a 5-star rating, leave us a nice review, and make sure you are subscribed as the season gets started so you don't miss an episode of Locked On Cavs. And if you are watching the show on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel because that is the best way you can help grow this show. Of course, the show, proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's show also brought to you by FanDuel, because right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5. And if your first $5 bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. The Cleveland Cavaliers had their preseason opener on Tuesday night at home against the Chicago Bulls. They lost 118-117. That will be the only time we reference the final score. That will be the only time of this episode that we reference the result of that game, because quite frankly, it doesn't matter even a little bit that the Cavs lost this game. What does matter are the things that happened during the game, but the final score just very irrelevant to anything that matters with the Cavs. And the thing that I thought stood out to me the most from this game was the play of DeAndre Hunter. Now, Hunter's in the starting lineup. I expect Hunter to be in the starting lineup for the beginning portion of this season. And truthfully, I expect Hunter to be in the starting lineup full-time. I don't think that this is going to be a thing that when Max Strus gets back, he's put back in the starting lineup. And as we know, Strus is going to miss several months. I would be very, very surprised if he plays before the calendar switches over to 2026. So DeAndre Hunter started at small forward alongside Donovan Mitchell, Jaylon Tyson, who got the start because Sam Merrill out with what Kenny Atkinson termed after the game to be a very minor abductor injury, just some soreness there. They said they're being very, very conservative with this because it's the preseason. Like, there's just nothing to gain from playing Sam Merrill when he has a minor injury in this. And obviously we know Darius Garland also out because of his own offseason foot surgery. So it was Donovan Mitchell, Jaylon Tyson, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. And this is a new lineup, obviously, and it's one that we didn't see a lot of last year. And I'm not speaking with necessarily like Jaylon Tyson in that shooting guard role, but DeAndre Hunter playing small forward alongside Jarrett Allen and alongside of Mobley. We saw at times last year, but we didn't see a lot of it. And I loved how this looked. Like, I thought that this is one of the best ways the Cavs can constitute themselves in terms of lineup constructions go, because I do think it's very important to not have DeAndre Hunter play small forward 100% of the time. Like, he did that on Tuesday night. He's not going to do that during the season. And the Cavs are going to not have, 5 in, 5 out hockey style lineup shifts the way that they did on Tuesday night. They will make normal substitutions, obviously, during the season. This was a preseason game type of thing to make sure that everyone was getting the proper minute allocations. So DeAndre Hunter played all of his minutes at small forward, and I thought he looked great. And he finished with 17 points. He was 7 of 9 shooting, 1 of 2 from 3, had 7 rebounds, had an assist. I thought that Hunter looked great on both ends of the floor. And I think that playing him at small forward more frequently than playing him at power forward is something that, yes, I've been talking about all summer. I think it's something that's very important. If you're new to the podcast, you can go pick out a bunch of different episodes from the summer that I talk about this. If you listen every day, you have heard me say this several times. But with Hunter, I think that the Cavs are able to just utilize him better when he's playing in his natural position, which is a small forward spot. And I do think some of this is a little bit different because the Cavs are thin in terms of creation with Darius Garland being out. Like, it does make more sense to kind of let DeAndre Hunter go and get his own basket, as opposed to when he's on the floor with both Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland. Like, maybe that offense looks a little bit less necessary when those two are both in the game alongside Hunter, and you've got Evan Mobley as well. But I do think it was interesting that the Cavs got him the basketball in different spots than we're used to seeing him. And part of that I do think is when a guy is acquired in the middle of the season, the way that DeAndre Hunter was last year, you really can't change too much of what you do, right? Like the Cavs had played, 55 games before DeAndre Hunter showed up. They are who they are. They couldn't change who they were to acclimate this guy. He needed to fit into what the Cavs are doing. But after a full offseason, after, it will be after a training camp, after a preseason, when we get to the games that matter, the Cavs will be able to build a little bit around what DeAndre Hunter's strengths are. And I think that is an important thing to think about as we watch him have a successful first night of the preseason against the Bulls. And this is not a thing that I don't even think what I'm doing here is overreacting to this. And no one's expecting him to, shoot 7 of 9 every night or shoot 50% from three. Those are unfair and unreal expectations. But what I do think is fair to expect is to see Hunter have the basketball in different spots than what we're used to, right? Like we saw him have the ball at the elbow. We didn't really see much of that last year. We saw him get the ball at the mid post. We really didn't see that much at all last year. We saw him be able to play a little bit of isolation, which we did see at times last year. And I think part of that was because of his newness. I don't know that DeAndre Hunter ever got comfortable. And I thought on Tuesday night, DeAndre Hunter looked more comfortable in a Cavs uniform than he did at any point last season. And I don't think that is he shouldn't be blamed for that. It's a tough thing to try and acclimate yourself from going to from an Atlanta team that was fighting for a postseason berth into a Cavs team that was fighting to win a championship. New faces, new system, just new everything. That's a really tough ask. And I do think that DeAndre did about as good of a job as he could have last year. But I just think that this year, the hype is real with him. I think that DeAndre Hunter is going to have a great season for the Cavs. And I think that Tuesday night was the first step in that direction because, we're not going to see him shoot. I don't know what that percent goes out to, 83%, I would guess, from the field. Like that's not going to happen. But I think we're going to see a much better version of him. And I do think that when the Cavs traded for DeAndre Hunter, they didn't do it solely with last year in mind. And I also think it's important to denote, I don't think they did it solely with the player that DeAndre Hunter was at that time in mind. Because you do have to remember, too, that Hunter is somebody the Cavs were very familiar with because they had the number 5 pick in the draft the year that he was picked 4th overall. So they had extensively scouted him back when he was at Virginia. They picked Darius Garland with that 5th pick after DeAndre Hunter went one selection before that. And had Hunter not been taken 4th, I think there was a very real chance the Cavs would have taken him 5th. I could maybe go as far to say as I think they would have taken him 5th. We will obviously never know, and that doesn't matter. But the point here is they know who he was, and they had an idea of what his ceiling could be. And I do think that there was some thinking that, he kind of hit not his ceiling, but kind of was starting to bump his head on what he could develop into playing in Atlanta, playing in that style of system around Trae Young and bringing him to Cleveland. I just think that they had this idea of DeAndre Hunter having some untapped potential. And in hearing everything we've heard about DeAndre Hunter this summer, like they've called him this summer's MVP, maybe not quite as eye-opening as calling Ty Jerome last year's MVP of September, but DeAndre Hunter is somebody that everybody from Kenny Atkinson to teammates, other people in the organization, everybody has spoken very highly of what DeAndre Hunter has been this summer. And I think that this first preseason game is the start of that showing itself publicly. I do think he's going to have a great year. I think that this was a great start to it. I think the Cavs are putting him in a better position to be successful than what they did before. It's not to say that he shouldn't play power forward ever, because I don't believe that to be true either. Like the Cavs can, I think, create so many different advantages no matter where they have him on the floor. I think that they can probably create a few more advantages when he's playing small forward than when he's playing power forward. But I also look at it and say, well, their offense last year was off the charts when he played power forward. Their offensive rating was somewhere around 130. Wasn't quite that high, but their defense was much better when he played small forward. And I think that even kind of bared itself out on Tuesday night, because you think it, one of the weak spots of Hunter's game is that he doesn't necessarily rebound all that well, but he had 7 rebounds. I just think it's an easier thing for him to go out and do that when he's playing small forward because of the guys that he's competing with for rebounds. When you're asking him to box out power forwards and battle with those guys for boards, I think it becomes a bigger challenge for him. But I think having him at small forward, you can see results like we saw on Tuesday night. Like, I just think that I don't know that I'm going to sit here and say the sky is the limit for DeAndre Hunter. Like, he's not going to turn into, I don't think, an all NBA type of player. But I do think that DeAndre Hunter can be a much better player than he was last year. I think that this is the first real sign of that publicly, because we've heard behind the scenes how good he had been. But to see him do this in the first preseason game, I certainly look at that and say that is a great sign for the Cavs. That is a great sign for things to come. That is a great sign for the starting lineup. And I would expect that when Darius Garland returns, the starting lineup is going to be Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, DeAndre Hunter, Evan Mobley, and Jarrett Allen. And I think that playing DeAndre Hunter alongside Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen much more frequently than the Cavs did last year will be a really, really good thing for Hunter. And I think ultimately it's going to be a really, really good thing for the Cavs as well. Now, I brought up Jaylon Tyson as the guy that did start at shooting guard. I want to talk about him a little bit. Plus, we're going to talk about Evan Mobley's shot because I thought it looked even a little bit better than it did last year. And I just think offensively, he has developed a certain edge to him that I think is worth diving in, at least after one game. So we're going to talk about that next, right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Did you know that most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, investments, whatever your financial portfolio is? You might not know every little detail about what you're worth. And that could be a problem because when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That is exactly why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface on your laptop or on your phone. Monarch built for people with busy lives. So if you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. They do the heavy lifting for you so you can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel like you're in control of your money without ever having to touch a spreadsheet. So don't let this financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That is LOCKEDON NBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. Again, that's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNBA. Do not miss this great deal. Half off your first year. Monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA. I was very impressed with the way that Evan Mobley looked on Tuesday night against the Chicago Bulls. Now, Mobley, like DeAndre Hunter, like the rest of the starters, he played 18 minutes, which the Cavs' main guys, other than Lonzo Ball, all basically played 3 6-minute shifts. Lonzo Ball played 2 of them. He played 12 minutes. Everyone else kind of played 18. So Evan Mobley finished with 12 points, 6 rebounds. Like his stat line as a whole is not something you're like, man, this guy took a leap, right? Like you didn't see him go out and score 25 in 18 minutes. We're like, wow, this guy's a force. But I think that the way he approached the offensive side of the floor looked a little bit different to me than what it did last year. And the way I would look at it is the leap that he made last year was kind of watching Evan go, okay, I'm supposed to do all this stuff. Like, I'm supposed to be aggressive. I'm supposed to be more aggressive than I was before. I'm supposed to shoot threes. I'm supposed to shoot more threes than I was before. I'm supposed to handle the basketball more. I'm supposed to run the break more. Like, I'm supposed to do all of these things. So I'm going to do all these things. Like, it felt as if, okay, yeah, that's my job. Where watching on Tuesday night gave me the feeling of, well, I know I can do all these things, so I'm just going to go do them, and good luck stopping me. Like, that to me is what watching Evan Mobley looked like. That to me seemed to be the offensive demeanor that he had. Like, he played, I thought, with even a higher level of confidence offensively. And I think even too, maybe a better way to describe it would be a higher level of smoothness offensively. Like, if you go back and watch the 2 threes that he made, and obviously Evan shot the ball well from beyond the arc last year. He shot almost 38% from 3. It was very good on a decent volume too. But if you go back and look at the two that he made on Tuesday, one of them was essentially on a DHO. Like, it wasn't technically a dribble handoff from DeAndre Hunter because it was a bounce pass, but for all intents and purposes, that was a DHO action that he got. And, he just kind of calmly knocked down the three from the right wing. And the other one was on an assist from Jaylon Tyson, who I'm going to talk about in a minute. And he just dribbles into it, steps into it, buries the three. Like, those are the things that looked a little bit more efficient, if you will. And it's not to say Evan wasn't making those shots last year, because he was, but they didn't look quite like this. They didn't look as smooth. They didn't look as efficient. They didn't look as confident. And I think that is an area where we are looking for Evan to take a step forward this year. And I thought Tuesday night, just as a first return in a preseason game that, as I mentioned earlier, the result means absolutely nothing. And this is a very, I think, low stakes situation, especially for somebody the caliber of Evan Mobley. Like, this is about as little pressure as you will ever see on an NBA floor for somebody like him. I thought it looked really good. And can that carry over into the regular season? Like, are we going to see Evan play with that type of confidence? Are we going to see him play with that demeanor where it's like, yeah, I'm just that guy. I know I can do all this stuff. So I'm going to go do this stuff, and good luck stopping me, no matter who you are defensively. That's what Evan looked like to me. And I think that is the guy that the Cavs need him to be, because if he is that guy offensively, he's going to be a lot better than he was last year. Even if maybe his numbers don't take some crazy leap forward, I just look at this and say, yeah, Evan's a much better player offensively. That's what I'm expecting to be saying a month and a half from now, when we're 15 games into the season. I feel like I should be saying, yeah, Evan Mobley's that guy offensively now in a way that he wasn't before. Like, he was really good, but he's even better. And I thought Tuesday night was a good first sign at that. And I mentioned Jaylon Tyson too, and I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about him because he did get the start. And this sounds a little crazy, because if you look at his stat line, like, it is nothing to write home about. Tyson missed all 5 shots that he took, so he didn't score. He had 3 assists, fouled a couple of times, didn't grab a rebound, had a couple of blocks, had a steal. But I thought he did everything well. Like, that might sound weird because, again, didn't score. But I thought he did everything well. Like, he looked to me, aside from the lack of shot making, he looked to me like the connector. He looked to me like he was kind of playing that Max Strus role. And yes, Max is a movement shooter in a way that Jaylen just isn't and probably never will be. But I thought that one of the things that I really wanted to see from Jaylen is for him to not over dribble, right? Like, I think that he needs to, because I do think he's a good decision maker. And I think that in the settings we've seen him have the basketball in his hands, I think that he's proven to make good decisions, whether it be summer league or, end of game situations last year, or even on Tuesday night. But I do think a flaw of his that I didn't necessarily notice as much on Tuesday was, while he was a good decision maker, he wasn't necessarily the quickest decision maker, where he could have the basketball in his hands for maybe a second too long. Maybe he takes 2 extra dribbles that could have been better served elsewhere. I didn't notice those things on Tuesday. And maybe if I go back and rewatch this game, it sticks out to me in a way that I didn't catch in the arena. But I thought that he looked improved on that front. And I do think that he looked like a guy that, again, despite not scoring, I thought he had a positive impact on this game. I thought he looked the part. He looks to me like somebody that belongs in the rotation. And again, it's early, but we have heard good things about him coming out of the Cavs. So I do think that, one, he is going to have that opportunity, right? Like, with Max Strus out, Jaylon Tyson is going to be in the rotation early on in this season. And whether or not he's in the rotation all year long, I think very much depends on what he looks like early in the season. But for the Cavs, Jaylen being a good NBA player this year, I don't know how much it changes their outcome this season, but I think it changes their long-term trajectory quite a bit. They need to, when they're in the situation they're in, just in terms of the draft capital that they've given up, the money that they have committed to guys, the fact that they are a second apron team, and they just have limited ways to improve the roster. Jaylon Tyson being good, I don't know if it's a necessity, but it almost feels like he can't be bad. Right? Like that, it's more important that he's not bad than he's good. But if he is good, I look at this and say, this can make the Cavs it could buy them an extra year or 2 with this core almost. Like, I think that is something that's a good way of thinking about it. So I thought that he looked good. I thought Larry Nance Jr. looked good, despite the fact that, like Jaylon Tyson, he missed 5 threes. But if you look at Larry Nance's box score, I think it's a perfect encapsulation of who I expect him to be for the Cavs this year. So Nance scored 11 points on 4 of 9 shooting, 0 of 5, as I mentioned, from 3. But he had 3 boards, 2 of them offensive, which I think is an important thing because I do think the Cavs are going to want to do that a little bit better this year than they did last year. Had 4 assists, had 2 steals. Like, I think that he's going to be a guy that is going to do everything for the Cavs. He's going to score when they need him to. I expect them to shoot the ball better than he did tonight. But he's going to score when they need him to. He's going to pass when they need him to. He's going to be a very good decision maker. He's going to be active defensively. He's going to do a lot of the little things that big guys need to do, but he's also going to be capable of making shots. And again, the shot making wasn't there. I don't think that's a big deal whatsoever, but I was impressed. I think that he fits this team perfectly. I think that already looks like a really, really good pickup for the Cavs. So I do think that that is certainly something to be excited about after one game. Now, the 2 other guys that I think are worth being excited about, Craig Porter Jr. and Tyrese Proctor. We'll talk about those 2 next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss because right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Let's head on over to the FanDuel Sportsbook because, yeah, they have preseason NBA odds, which I don't necessarily know that I want to dive into. I just think too many things could go wrong. But they also have NFL odds because we've got Thursday Night Football tomorrow night, Philadelphia in New York against the Giants, 7.5 point spread. Listen, I'm going to raise my hand here. I'm not having a great start to the NFL season on FanDuel. FanDuel is beating me right now. But I look at this and say, the Giants are not very good, and they're coming off of a very bad loss to a very bad New Orleans team. Philadelphia is very good, also coming off of a not great loss. But 7.5 points, short week, travel. And yeah, I know Philly and NYC are not very far apart. But 7.5 points to a divisional opponent on a short week, I kind of like the Giants. I mean, maybe they lose this game by 7 and you win on that hook, but I just don't know that this is going to be a double-digit outcome for Philly. So my pick would be the Giants. But again, I've been cold so far. So maybe my pick, not the way that you want to go when you're making your first $5 bet. Because if you are making that first $5 bet with FanDuel, $300 in bonus bets will be yours if you win. Again, pick a bet, put down $5 if it hits, $300 in bonus bets right in the app on FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com, or visit the FanDuel Sportsbook app. You can download it in whatever app store you have and get started today. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen or watch today. If you are watching on YouTube as we roll along here, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. Craig Porter Jr. had an outstanding preseason debut for the Cavs. He finished the night tied for a team high with 17 points off the bench. He played 18 minutes. He was in that second group of main guys that were obviously not the starter, but Craig hit all 5 threes that he took, had 4 assists, had 4 rebounds, did have 2 turnovers, which I guess if you want to look at a negative, that's the one. But I was really impressed with Craig. Kenny Atkinson talked after the game about the fact that Craig is in better shape than he was last year, and he didn't want to, and they've talked about the conditioning aspect for Craig quite a bit over the past couple of days. So Kenny did make it a point to say, it's not like this guy was in bad shape. He's just in better shape. Like now, I think he said he's in the 90th percentile by their metrics, which I don't know what their metrics are. So he is in better condition now than he was last year. And they view that as a positive. And I don't see a way where it could be viewed as anything other than a positive. I would not expect him to all of a sudden have turned into this 3-point sniper. Now, it's a great thing if he does, because then, I kind of do want to talk about this, the Ty Jerome stuff, because I've seen that floating around. Like he had a solid debut in the preseason for Memphis the other night. And people then jump to, well, Lonzo Ball didn't have a good preseason game for the Cavs because Lonzo, I did not think looked great in the 12 minutes that he played. That doesn't mean Lonzo is not going to be good, and it doesn't mean Ty Jerome is going to be awesome in Memphis. Now, maybe those things happen, but I also do think, and I'll probably spend more time on this, maybe early next week talking about this, but Lonzo Ball is not the replacement for Ty Jerome. Like, I just think that is looking at that the wrong way. Maybe Craig Porter Jr. is your Ty Jerome replacement. Maybe that internal development comes from Craig. Like, that is a real possibility. It's not necessarily the possibility I would bet on, but it is a real possibility that that could be the case. I think that we need to look at Lonzo Ball as a replacement for Karis LeVert. Like, that is the guy that I look at as, yeah, he does a lot of those same things, because the skill set between Ty and Lonzo, not really all that similar. I think that Lonzo has a lot more similarities with somebody like Karis, who I do think the Cavs missed after they made the trade for DeAndre Hunter last year. I think that they missed the specific skill set that Karis LeVert has. I think Lonzo has a lot of those things. Anyways, back to Craig. I thought he looked really good in this preseason game. If this is something that can carry on, like if he can be a better three-point shooter than he has been at any point in his career, I think that's how he kind of finds his way into the rotation. And I do think that there's going to be an opportunity for him early in the season. As I mentioned on yesterday's show, Lonzo Ball is going to be playing around 20 minutes a game. That means the Cavs have point guard minutes available, especially while Darius Garland is out. I think some of those are obviously going to go to Craig Porter Jr. early in the season, especially when Lonzo Ball is not playing because it's a back-to-back. I look at this and say this is a very, very big opportunity for Craig Porter Jr. And night one of the preseason, he looked good. You have to take it with a grain of salt because, of course, it is the preseason. But I was impressed with what I saw from CPJ. And then I was impressed with what I saw from Tyrese Proctor, too. He looked great in his preseason debut. And I don't know what he's going to contribute to the Cavs, if anything, this year. It's, as I've said several times when discussing him this summer, when you are picked 49th overall by a team that won 64 games, by a team that this year expects to win the championship, it's very rare that somebody drafted in that spot makes a contribution as a rookie. It's just not something that happens. So anything the Cavs get from Tyrese Proctor this year should be looked at as a bonus. But the Cavs have said very nice things about him. Kenny Atkinson said again on Tuesday night that he's going to kind of push them to make some tough decisions because of how well he's playing. Ultimately, I would be surprised if he's in the opening night rotation, but maybe there are nights when guys are out and they can use Tyrese Proctor and he can be available and he can be a big help. But he had 14 points for the Cavs. He made 3 threes, was 5 of 6 total from the floor. I thought he looked really good. Also had 2 assists and a steal. Whether or not he can hold up defensively, I do think is going to be a question. I look at his size and I do think that his body could use a little bit more physical development. I think that is going to be a big point of emphasis for him throughout this season, throughout next summer. But I mean, if we're judging based on one game, Tyrese Proctor looks like an NBA player, and you can't prove in one night that you're an NBA player, and Tyrese Proctor didn't prove, that he's going to have a long career based on tonight. That'd be a silly thing to say. But as I talked about, like, you can immediately know when a guy can't play, and that's not popped up with Tyrese in any setting so far. Like, he looked good in Summer League. He looked good tonight. The Cavs have said both publicly and privately that he's looked good at training camp. I just think that is something that is certainly a good sign of things to come for the Cavs. Now, they play their next preseason game on Thursday in Chicago. We don't know who's going to be available for them. I wouldn't be surprised if everybody doesn't play in that one on the road, but nothing's been made official yet. So we'll kind of wait and see what that group looks like. But we will be talking plenty about what happened in preseason game number 1, plenty what there is to look forward to on tomorrow's edition of Locked On Cavs. I believe Spencer Davies going to join me just to kind of talk about the things overall, what we've heard from the first, at this point, week and a half of training camp, because the season is very rapidly approaching. I certainly can't wait. I know you can't wait if you're listening or watching to this, and there's just so much to talk about. There's so much to be excited about because basketball season is back. And one other thing too, because I genuinely am interested in this. I would love to know feedback of what you guys thought of the broadcast on Tuesday night. I didn't watch, as of right now, I mean, it's 12:30 Wednesday morning right now as I record this. I didn't watch because I was in the building, but I'm fascinated to see how games look on NBC or Peacock. And the Cavs obviously played on Peacock against Chicago. So drop a comment what you thought of the broadcast, or you can email them my way at locavsmailbag@gmail.com, or send them my way on social media as well. But that's going to do it for today's episode. As I said, tomorrow, planning on having Spencer Davies on to talk about everything that we've heard so far during camp, what's to like, what's not to like, things like that. So make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. And if you're watching on YouTube as we get out of here, do us a favor, hit the thumbs up button for us, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. And I will be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.